Like many FromSoftware games, Elden Ring doesn't go out of its way to explain the intricacies of its story and characters. The game expects its players to discover such details for themselves. In Elden Ring, curiosity is rewarded with knowledge. By exhausting every NPC's dialogue and piecing those lines together with item descriptions given by swords, incantations, talismans, and the like, we can learn a great deal about the lands between and those who inhabit this fractured world. Yet it is clear that not all mysteries are meant to be solved this way. Radagon is a character about whom very little is known and understood. Despite appearing near the end of the game, he's only ever talked about from the perspective of others, who all seem to have skewed versions of the truth. He has no lines of dialogue, but it is implied on multiple occasions that he is very important to the story.
Lord Radagon was a great champion, possessed of flowing red locks. He came to these lands at the head of a great golden host. When he met Lady Rennala in battle, he soon repented his territorial aggressions there, and became husband to the Carian queen. However, when Godfrey, first Elden Lord, was hounded from the lands between, Radagon left Rennala to return to the Erdtree capital, becoming Queen Marika's second husband and king consort, taking the title of Second Elden Lord. The mystery endures to this day as to why Lord Radagon would cast Lady Rennala aside, and moreover, why a mere champion would be chosen for the seat of Elden Lord.
Supposedly, Radagon was a normal human and leader of a warrior tribe fervently loyal to the Golden Order before he found love on the battlefield when he met Rennala. Following his marriage to the Queen of the Full Moon, he sired 3 children with Lady Rennala before abruptly abandoning her in favour of a new marriage to Marika. The way in which Radagon straight up deserts his first wife without so much as a second thought for her well-being makes him come across as an uncaring bastard. He ends up leaving Rennala all alone to the mercy of the old Carian nobles, who rebelled and sealed her away in the Academy of Rea Lucaria's library. His utter disregard for her is further supported by the fact that he reforged the Carian sword she gave him as a wedding gift into a weapon more befitting his new station as Elden Lord. He stripped it of its moonlight qualities and remodelled it after the Elden Ring itself, to symbolise his utter devotion to the Golden Order. Even Radagon's own children seem to have a poor opinion of him. In Radagon's case, he idolises and looks up to Godfrey over his birth father, despite the latter also being a warrior. Rykard, on the other hand, despises the Golden Order that his father cherishes, and Rani is shown to be very protective of her birth mother, and never once brings up her father's name in any dialogue. What all this shows us is that deep down, Radagon was a fundamentalist who cared for little outside the core beliefs he followed. But how did Radagon come to be this way, and why would he have chosen to place a religious movement above and beyond his own family? Who was he really, and where did he come from? Certain characters in-game have struggled with these same questions. In Brother Corrin's questline, we meet a scholar known only as Gold Mask, a staunch follower of the Golden Order, but was troubled by a momentous mystery involving Radagon.
The Master's reflections had heightened as we neared the Erdtree, while still a precise calculus. The rhythms grew increasingly wild, until he simply ceased. Now the Master is facing quite the puzzle. The Golden Order is founded on the principle that Marika is the one true god. However, the name of Marika's second husband, King Consort Radagon, also appeared. Who exactly was Radagon? The Master is stumped. His finger has remained still ever since Radagon's name was discovered.
If we decide to aid Gold Mask in deducing the mystery behind Radagon, our tarnished protagonist can cast an incantation known as the Law of Regression in front of the second Elden Lord statue in the royal capital to reveal a hidden truth. Radagon is Marika, that they are in fact one and the same being. Now, this obviously raises some serious questions. Like, how would such a thing have been possible? After all, these two have had children together. More importantly, this secret raises a compelling conundrum as to whether Radagon was always Marika to begin with, or whether he started off as his own person, only to end up fusing with her later. I've seen many theories arguing for and against Radagon existing as his own person in the beginning, and while I think there is stronger evidence to suggest he came from Marika, please bear in mind that the ideas presented in this video are just a theory. The fact is, there are some characters in Elden Ring that are so shrouded in secrecy and conjecture, no manner of research will give us definitive, foolproof answers to the deeper questions pertaining to them. There comes a point where all we can do is speculate on what the writers may have intended. Nevertheless, the lore behind Marika and Radagon appears to be heavily inspired by the alchemical rebus. In alchemy, the rebus is a symbol of balance, representing a single individual possessing both male and female traits. The two halves of the rebus are the Red King and the White Queen, which are evocative of both Radagon and Marika. The rebus is said to have hailed from one being that is separated into male and female parts, until it is completed once again to form the divine hermaphrodite, a higher, unified being. I believe Radagon's alleged history that he was born into a barbarian tribe of Erdtree loyalists was a lie fabricated by the Golden Order to hide his true origins. I think the Greater Will created Radagon from a part of Marika immediately following the war against the Giants. It is said that with Godfrey leading her armies, the Golden Order waged fierce battles upon those who refused to submit to the Erdtree. Apparently, Marika herself ended the war with the Giants by slaying their fell god, yet despite her victory, she was not able to extinguish their flame of ruin, which sat atop the frigid northern mountains. Realizing the flame posed a credible threat to the Erdtree, Marika cursed the last of the Giants to attend to it for all eternity. However, it's strongly hinted that the last giant was able to claim a small victory by casting a curse of his own. The giant's red braid whip description reads that every giant is red of hair, and Radagon was said to have despised his own red locks. Perhaps that was a curse of their kind. The implication here is that Radagon's red hair is a direct result of the curse of the fire giants. Interestingly, there is no mention of Radagon having taken part in the subjugation of the giants, leading me to believe he did not yet exist, and that Marika was the one cursed with red hair. Perhaps Radagon was split off from his female counterpart at this very moment to bear the giant's curse, so that Marika could continue to be seen as a flawless blonde goddess of the Golden Order. I reckon the corruption of the Elden Ring's vessel in any way, shape or form would have been unacceptable to the Greater Will, who sought a perfect, orderly world. So the curse was instead passed on to the male half of Marika. As vessel of the Elden Ring, Marika was comprised of many great runes, which are akin to pieces of herself. By removing one such piece of the Elden Ring from Marika, the Greater Will was able to create Radagon. This would explain how Radagon was in possession of a great rune before the shattering took place. I posit that Radagon was made into a separate being through the extraction and use of the great rune of the Unborn, which is said to perfect those who have been reborn anew. As we know, Radagon takes this great rune with him and ends up giving it to Rennala before he leaves her. The important point to remember here is that this takes place well before the Elden Ring is shattered. Therefore, Radagon must have come from Marika. It's the most fitting explanation as to how and why Radagon was in possession of a great rune prior to the events of the shattering. In any event, by extracting the most loyal part of Marika in order to form and give life to Radagon, the Greater Will made a serious miscalculation. There is no doubt the Golden Order benefited from having a ferociously devoted and powerful male version of Marika. Indeed, it looks as though Radagon was created in part to win over Rennala and the Lakes of Liurnia with diplomacy when war had failed. However, this plan by the Greater Will to split Marika into two separate entities to expand the Golden Order's influence over the lands between backfired so horribly that I'd argue it was the single greatest mistake the outer god ever made. With the most devout part of Marika being sent away to Liurnia, she began to harbour sincere doubts about the Golden Order and by extension, the Greater Will itself.
In Marika's own words, I declare mine intent to search the depths of the Golden Order through understanding of the proper way. Our faith, our grace is increased. Those blissful early days of blind belief are long past. My comrades, why must ye falter?
It seems Marika's questioning started off as genuine curiosity, in the hopes her inquiries would strengthen her faith. But the further she searched, the more jaded and disillusioned she grew. I think Marika looked into the heart of the Golden Order and saw something that deeply troubled her. She started to see the Greater Will for what it really was, an alien that wanted to dominate planets from afar by robbing people of the freedom to make their own choices. Upon realizing the insidious designs of her ancient benefactor, Marika devised a plan to bring about the destruction of her own order from within, and thus diminish the god's influence over her world. She of course did this by stripping her first husband, Lord Godfrey, and his kin of their grace.
My lord, and thy warriors, I divest each of thee of thy grace. With thine eyes dimmed, ye will be driven from the lands between. Ye will wage war in a land afar, where ye will live and die. Then, after thy death, I will give back what I once claimed, return to the lands between, wage war, and brandish the Elden Ring, grow strong in the face of death. Warriors of my lord, Lord Godfrey.
In banishing Godfrey and his warriors from the lands between to become stronger through struggle and death, Marika had set her plan in motion. At this point, I suspect the Greater Will noticed something was amiss, and hurriedly summoned Radagon to return to his original self to rein her in, but by then it was already too late. Both Marika and Radagon had become separate people with their own thoughts and motivations. Believing Marika was up to something, the Greater Will may have taken precautionary measures to have Radagon rule in her stead, at least until the next Empyrean was ready to succeed her. This could be why we see some churches with Radagon's statue instead of Marika's, and may also explain Melina's recounting of Marika's ambiguous words about Radagon not yet being her, while also calling him her other half.
O Radagon, leal hound of the Golden Order, thou art yet to become me. Thou art yet to become a god. Let us be shattered, both. Mine other self.
Some theorists have claimed these lines of dialogue prove Radagon and Marika were never one to begin with, and only fused together immediately before the Elden Ring was broken. However, I would argue that the line, "Thou art yet to become me," actually refers to the dialogue that directly follows that sentence. When Marika says, "me," I think she's referring to the fact that she's a god. The implication here is that Radagon was trying and failing to usurp Marika's godly position prior to the shattering. The way in which Marika rebukes Radagon by referring to him essentially as an obedient dog shows how much she's come to loathe that once blindly loyal part of herself. I also suspect she was none too pleased about having children with her other half, and may have even been forced to do so under direct orders from the Greater Will or its agents. The Outer God may have wanted a larger pool of Empyreans to choose from to be Marika's successor. Unfortunately, the twins Miquella and Melania, being born of a single god, inevitably meant that they were cursed, with one being forced to live in eternal childhood while the other suffered from a rotting sickness. It's hard to say exactly when Radagon and Marika were forced back together, but it must have been well after Miquella and Melania were born, but sometime prior to the Elden Ring shattering. In the announcement trailer and opening cutscene, the twist that Radagon and Marika share the same body is given away long before the story provides us context as to what's happening. In the first trailer, we see Marika destroying the Elden Ring before the scene quickly cuts to Radagon attempting to repair it in between her strikes. This suggests that despite inhabiting the same body again, they are now effectively at odds with one another. Marika had lost complete faith in the greater will after her child Godwyn's death. She wrestled for control over hers and Radagon's combined body as they both tried to break and repair the Elden Ring in equal measure. Radagon's efforts to mend the Elden Ring ultimately ended in failure, with it being fractured into great runes and scattered over the land. Because Marika was the physical embodiment of the Elden Ring, when she shattered it, she in fact shattered herself and Radagon together, hence why they appeared to be in such a terrible state. In saying this though, I also believe the Elden Beast played a big part in tearing apart Marika and Radagon's shared form, as it wanted to severely punish Marika for her role in the shattering. I hope you enjoyed this analysis into the origins of an obscure but fascinating character in Elden Ring's mythos. Like I said before, much of what is included in this video is speculation, but I believe the theories presented here are credible and make sense given what we know about the history of the Golden Order, the Greater Will, and the lands between. Still, I'm eager to hear your thoughts on Radagon. Please comment below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, and for more Elden Ring content, do subscribe. I hope you have a great day. Cheers everyone.